This guy right here would like for you to believe that he is the absolute bravest Decepticon and probably the best marksman that they have. Like I said, that's what he would like for you to believe. We're going to spend a little bit of time today taking a look at everything to do with the Transformers Titans Return Slugslinger as we move toward rounding out the deluxes for this line, but we're not quite there yet, and I'll explain why. I'm also going to do something that I've not done in a long time, and that is going to be giving credit where credit is due. Stick around. We're going to talk about everything to do with this guy and a couple of other odds and ends in the latest GotBot True review. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, share, check out Machinery of Man, the Everything Factor, and me everywhere. Spend some time on the channel, see what it is that might tickle your fancy. Check out Universal Collision, Season 1 is up as well. Recently I popped up Megatron's attempt to get candy for the second Halloween in a row. Just something for a little bit of fun as we head into that season. First things first, I want to give a shout out to Andrew's Collectibles, a friend of the channel. He does some interesting coverage of like thrift pickups especially, so older figures, and kind of shows what he gets in the haul. They're interesting, they're short, and sometimes he really challenges me to come up with the identity of some fairly obscure Transformers figures. I also wanted to talk about how this isn't quite the end of the deluxes. Yes, this is Wave 6. Yes, this is the end of the Titans Returns line in terms of regular retail. I managed to score a Grow Tusk. He's on the way. We're going to take a look at him because I do have a few thoughts about that guy. But we'll save that for another day. And I wanted to give credit where credit is due. I've been really hard this year on some of the, we'll say, business decisions that Hasbro has made. Most notably, the price hikes here in Canada for the Last Night line, and the, as far as I'm concerned, overuse of exclusives, especially of figures that really should be just out in regular retail. Some of them have been store exclusives, some of them have been convention exclusives. But I want to give credit where credit is due for a couple of things here, because it's not all bad news, folks. It's not all bad news. So first, I feel like, at least here in my part of the world, distribution has vastly improved over what we had during the Age of Extinction run. During that run, we had a glut of movie figures, which we do still have, and they are certainly well on the shelves, especially Wave 1 and Wave 2. But when we had that glut before, we really didn't get anything new come in for Generations. That's why I was about 9 months getting Shrapnel and Skywarp. By the way, I think that it's pretty cool that they're re-releasing Shrapnel in the Power of the Primes line. It was a great little figure, and I think that the new one does look a little bit better. Anyway, this time that didn't happen. We actually continued to get new waves, most specifically Wave 5 and now Wave 6 for the Generations line during a movie run. I think that's impressive. Not everywhere got it. I can only speak for my part of the world. I know some people are really aching with poor distribution. But here's my point. I'm giving them credit because I think it has improved. Does it have a long way to go still? Definitely. But I think it is improved from what it once was. If you are living in a place where the distribution is still very lackluster, I feel for you. I really do. And hopefully those become areas that get more attention in the future as well. The second thing that I want to give credit for is that we have gotten some word of certain exclusives getting a broader distribution. The RC, for example, that's went on a couple of different sites. Grotusk hopefully will get a broader release. I didn't get him through the regular means, but we'll talk about that another time. And here's the big one. And I harped on this when I did the review. The Clones 2-pack is now available here in Canada. And it's available at a chain that doesn't usually carry Transformers, let alone exclusive Transformers. Though they've been known to carry some of the exclusive Marvel Legends. So it's nice to see that EB Games has kind of picked up the ball there, and hopefully that's a sign of good things to come in the future. It's nice that we're getting a little bit of a nod and better availability there. And the third thing that I wanted to give credit for is that just yesterday, though I didn't pick any up, I was tempted. I saw finally the Wave 3 Deluxes for the Last Night line. Now, it is a little bit delayed from where other places got it, but it's nice to see that we're starting to get them come, and starting to get them come before the end of the year. Not with this, kind of insane, crazy delay. If we can keep having things move in this positive direction, maybe good things can happen for everybody. But I do see these as 3 positive things going forward. Let's hope that it keeps up and improves for not just here, but all areas. Oh, and a fourth one. In my neck of the woods, very, very common. It happened in the Generations 2014 line. It happened with Combiner Wars. It did not happen here, but we're very used to having the last 2 waves get skipped, or at best be extremely sparse. But we're used to having them get completely skipped here, like we never did, and I've talked about this before, we never did get a Brainstorm, we never did get an RC or a Chromia. We had, once I saw Skylinks and, I think it was maybe Wave 6, the one that had Smokescreen and Hound and whatnot. I think I saw those once, maybe. We didn't get anything skipped this time. We got all of the waves. Except so far for Ramhorn, we haven't seen him. But we've gotten all of the Titan Master waves at regular retail, all of the, Voyager and Deluxe and everything else. Some have been more plentiful than others, admittedly, but we have gotten them all, and I think that too is a step in the right direction. Okay, I've babbled on enough about a few things that I wanted to mention there. Let's get into this guy, and we're going to begin by taking him off screen. And I'm just going to really quickly bring in his box here. Let's back this up a little bit. It's a box. It has nice artwork on it. You'll notice that there's gold on his chest over here. And you'll notice that his pylons coming up behind his head are blue. We'll look at that more when we look at his collector card. On the back we have the product shots. It is what it is. It's nothing to get super excited about or anything, but it is there. So we're going to take this out. And here is the ever popular collector card. This is, I think, probably a better paint scheme than we actually got. We have the gold on those, turbines, whatever they are, on his chest. We have the blue on the pylons up behind his head. It is indeed a little more accurate. The blue is a nice blue. I think this is fantastic, fantastic artwork that is very, very true to Slugslinger. Over here, we get his tech specs. I think that overall it's kind of maybe what we would expect, like the Fire Blast. Because Caliburst gives him the ability for rapid fire, I think that makes sense. That would also, of course, reflect in his speed, so I think that's cool. The brain power, you might think, hey, that's kind of high, but since he's supposed to be a braggart who is actually kind of a coward, he's sort of deceptive, pardon the pun there for Decepticon, but I think that you need to be smart in order to kind of, pull off a ploy and make anyone believe that you're something that you're not. Strength, yeah, I guess that sort of makes sense, because if he doesn't have Caliburst and the rapid fire, he's really not that great in the battlefield, and he knows it. So there you go with that. And here we have him back on screen, and what can I say? We're going to grade his paint apps first and foremost. The blue that you're seeing on screen might be a little bit more blue than he actually is. It's a bit lighter. At the same time, I don't think that the blue used on the Japanese release is exactly perfect. The paint here is one of the most complicated things with this guy. If we are looking at him in comparison to his original toy, this is a 10, pure 10. It kind of redoes that perfectly. If we're looking at it in terms of animation, well, if we're making the comparison with the Rebirth episode, this at best might be a 5, because the blue should be way, way darker. But if we're looking at it in comparison to, his paint scheme in the Headmaster series, this is pretty good. I did add the gold on his chest, but this would again be somewhere around a 9. I would say that the Japanese version is probably like a 9.75, because I think that the blue there is still just ever so slightly off. And there are a couple of screenshots that I've seen where he was this shade of blue. So overall, what am I going to, taking all of that into account, what am I going to score his paint? I'm going to score it at a 9, because there's no mistaking that it is indeed Slugslinger. The weapon storage here is okay. We can put one down on his wing. We can put the other one on the other wing. We're going to look at that in just a little bit. Actually, you know what? Let's take a look at Caliburst now and those accessories and kind of get that out of the way. And here we have Caliburst. What's really interesting to me is that a couple of years ago, we got an Autobot Double Target Master being Scoop, and one of his, little buddies was renamed as Caliburst, even though it should have been Tracer. I think it's Tracer. When in reality, Caliburst is actually a Decepticon Target Master. It's this little guy. Now, of course, he's been revisioned here as a Titan Master, but you get the idea. Overall, this is still about, in terms of being a Titan Master, I'm going to give this guy a score actually of about 4. Why? Well, he still has the ball joint at the head. He can get in a seated position. He's pinned at the hips. The arms move. Look at that visor. Though this is, I think, a reuse of blowpipe, I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty sweet. It's nice to see paint. So to transform him, of course, you fold down the arms and you bend them at the waist and fold them around. And then we get this face. It's a good face for Slugslinger. I don't know why there's a little bit of blue there kind of above his eyes. It would have been nice if the color used on the face had been up there as well, since it should be, but overall it looks, pretty sinister. So we're going to just take him out of it and look at the first of his blaster accessories. It's this. It's double-barreled. It looks pretty cool. I totally dig it. You can see a couple of Titan Master pegs in there. that will be for use later on. You also see a 5mm hole there, but it's molded pretty nice. I don't mind this as a blaster. So we're going to look at the second one and then look at them together. Here's the other one. It looks more like an engine to me, but we have, and I'll point this out now, we have that 5mm peg right there, but we also have another 5mm peg up above it here, which gives us a couple of options for storage. Now, that being said, all of that being said, I think that this looks pretty good, and you know, it can be dual wielded by Slugslinger. He can hold one in each hand, no problem. Or, we also have another option, or a couple of options. You can put them together like this. That's fine. And you know, it's like a tri-barreled blaster. Or because we have that other peg, we can bring it further out front. Why would we do this? Why would there be two pegs? Well, I think that this one is intended to be done to make this the little speeder thing for the Titan Master, so that he looks like this. Okay, again, I'm never in a million years going to do this, but it's an option. So we're going to put Slugslinger back together, bring him in, and finally get into him. And here we have Slugslinger holding on to both of his blasters, no problem. Like I said, they could go in 5mm ports here on the wings, but I mean, they look great. So taking those out of that hand and out of this one over here. Let's just get this guy stood proper. You know, there's the base look of him. Here he is with a guy who a lot of people have claimed that this is a remold of or reuse of. Other than the legs and that transformation, it's really not. But here he is with Trigger Happy, and you know, again, like they look fine together. They look good. I looked at Trigger Happy in episode 225. The true remold here and the true reuse is Misfire. There's no mistaking it. I looked at Misfire in full in episode 292. And there we have all three together, just so you can see it. So far I've given one grade of a 9 to the paint apps. Let's talk about the articulation here. The head, of course, can go left and right. The head ball joint Titan Master connection is actually really good on this guy. It's pretty smooth but solid. He can look kind of left and right ever so slightly for the quizzical dog, just a little bit. The arms, well, the shoulders can go, I guess technically they can go all the way around. You might have to detach them a bit, but they can do it. We have you know, a little over 90 degrees at the elbow, and we have a swivel at the bicep. Now, one thing that is weird on this guy is that Misfire's hands, when you transform them, they lock in. As a matter of fact, I'm just bringing Misfire in here for a second, just listen. You can hear an audible click of where they go in. But on this guy, we don't have that click. In fact, if you push back too far, you're going to pop his hands right off. In fact, I'm after popping both hands right off. Now, they just friction back in, but I don't think the hands are quite as effective as they were with the earlier use. The back wing pieces, they can move in and out, you know, on a hinge for your leisure. We still have a, if I can do it, we still have a waist on the guy. The legs still go all the way forward and all the way back. We still have a thigh swivel. We still have a super deep knee bend because of transformation. The heel and the toe both tilt forward and backward. No ankle tilt side to side. Maybe that's a bit unfortunate. But overall, I think it's pretty effective. I don't have any issue with his articulation other than maybe those wrists. Because of the wrists, I'm going to give this guy's articulation a score of 9. If he had the locking point, I would probably give it a 9.5, because really and truly the only possible thing that he could have extra would be ankle tilts. And I can understand why that's not there. A, this is a deluxe, and B, because of the transformation, I don't think it would really work that well. Okay, the transformation for this guy. Well, naturally we begin by taking off his head. I had wondered, because Misfire can actually transform and leave his head on, I'd wondered if Caliburst could stay on here as well. He cannot, because there's a kind of a connecting rod between both of the nose cone sections, and it's pretty solid plastic. As well, it has a screw in it, so even if you wanted to kind of gouge some plastic out, I think the screw would get in your way, and you really don't want to ruin this guy for the sake of that. So, we have the head off. That's where we begin. And we've kind of seen this with Misfire already. It's really similar. We put the fist in. Now, this hinge at the shoulder comes down. With Misfire, when you bring that down, you also need to kind of rotate up the wing. So it's two things that need to move there together. That's not the case with this guy. With this guy, you can just pull the shoulder out and pull the shoulder out and bring them down and just sort of leave them for now. You'll notice there's a blue tab back here on the wrist and another blue tab back here on the wrist. They're going to go pegged in just like Misfire's does. The feet fold up with the heel going up inside the leg, the heel going up inside the leg, and the toe bending down and bending down. Nothing that we haven't really seen before. Try and make sure that the waist is as straight as you can. Bring out the waist section in right there. And now you're going to angle up the legs, so at kind of a 45, and you're going to peg them together. There's two holes here on this shin, I guess, and there's two pegs over here. So I'm going to get them together and get them pushed up right here, just so you can see how these are supposed to be positioned. Okay, and at the end of the day, you should have the feet kind of put up behind, you know, in the back of his body. Underneath, the waist section is still out, the legs are kind of bent at this 45, and then the knees are bent to bring that all in. We bring the arms down, and that little tab that's on the wrist will now go into a little slot way down here. Okay, and those arms tab in very tightly on this guy. Like, I think the tolerance might be off by like a micrometer or so. Now, I want to point this out too. For some reason, these blue engine pieces can pop off. I don't know why. There's just two pegs here. They can pop off. I don't really see a reason. But if you pop them off accidentally, it's easy enough to put them back on. But I just wanted to point it out. Bring that up over, put it back on. So, yeah, you just bring these down by the side of his body, just like you did with Misfire, and tab them in. It's a strong tab. You bring the wings down on the side. You bring the nose cone forward, all the way forward like this, and then you bend it back. And you have it in there like that. In the seated position with his arms forward, you can slot him in there. He locks in pretty securely. I mean, he's not gonna fall out. You can close that up, and there you go. That's really him done. You can also, if you are so inclined, store his weapons in this mode. We have those ports again under the wings, so you can say put that one there, and this one over here, and boom, at the end of the day, this is what you have. It's true to the guy. I mean, the argument could be made that the Decepticon symbols out here on the wings should be up in front here, but I kind of like the added red detail. It could be argued that the lower part here should be blue. I might agree with that actually, but it still doesn't look bad the way that it is. This connecting piece in here is what goes over the socket for where the head would be, so that's why you can't leave Caliburst in there. I think it's largely successful. really the only two things that I can say that I don't like about the guy, or that slightly bother me, is that there's no locking point for his wrists, and those tabs on his wrist that go into the side of his legs for this mode are tight. Real tight, and you got to put in a little bit of pressure. Overall though, the rest of it is fine. The conversion scheme, you know, the transformation here, again, I'm going to give it a 9. It's pretty great. Even if you don't want to kind of fight to tab in those wrists, the friction of the arms will just leave him there down by his sides. Anyway, no problem. And I think it's an interesting looking playing mode. Overall score for this guy is about a 9. It's another solid entry in what has been a really solid line. It's a great send-off. No, maybe he's not quite as perfect as his, you know, two partners. I have said that Trigger Happy is a perfect Transformer, but this guy is probably about as good as Misfire is. And you know what? That really isn't bad at all. Overall score, 9. I really think he's worth the pickup for anyone. And that's it. I know that I kind of covered a lot of stuff here. I appreciate you stopping by and giving me some of your valuable time. I'd love to hear what you think of this guy, what your experiences have been. And as always, I look forward to the next time that you and I get together for another visit right here inside the videos.